Seder. But there's still a question was raised, what's the minhag for those who are careful with to be yoitzes to the shlishis? So I want to quote what it says in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe says, based on what it says elsewhere, that it should be after midday, they should fulfill this third meal with meat, bebasar, meat, fish, or those fruit that are not on the Seder plate. Best thing is that if fish or meat or both. But if he doesn't have it, for some reason, you could use it with fruit. Now we're going to the Seder. Of course, by Yidden, the Seder starts with lighting candles. The ladies have to light candles, Mitzvah Shabbos. Prior to that, you will already find on the schedule that you're supposed to say Vatoy di Einu. If you daven Ma'ariv, you do it in the middle of the Shemona Esrei in the Amida. But if you don't daven Ma'ariv, you say this paragraph Vatoy di Einu. And if for some reason you can't do it, make sure you say Baruch Hamavdil, that separates bein Kodesh leKodesh. When you light the candles, you make the Shechayonu. You have in mind that it's going for the Yom Tov. Remember, you already said Shechayonu, the ladies, by lighting the candles. Many ladies have the minhag that in addition of drinking the cup of Kiddush, Friday night, Yom Tov, you don't drink the wine. Fine. But the ladies also have to have 4 cups of wine. Many, many ladies have the minhag to also say the Kiddush together with their husbands. So make sure that you don't repeat Shechayonu. When you only make Shechayonu once at night. So since the ladies already made Shechayonu by Kiddush, they will not make by lighting the candles, they will not make Shechayonu by Kiddush. Okay. Now we're going to the Siddur, to the Haggadah. Chabad, the Rebbeim, would have that custom. They made it public and they told us about it. Before we do anything on the Seder, even though we already prepared and we learned and we even have notes, but it's customary from the Rebbeim that they would read from the Haggadah what to do. Not only would they look in the Haggadah what you're supposed to do before you did anything, they would also say it out what you're supposed to do. They would actually read the words. When it says, put the Zeroya on your right, they would read it. The Rebbe would stand when he would prepare the matzahs. The 3 matzahs are called Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. Is the word Keli, Chof Lamed Yud. It's a Keli, it's a vessel, it's a channel for all the revelations, for all the blessings. It's better to have a smaller cup and drink the whole cup each time than have a large cup and not be able to drink all the wine. The best thing is that the candles should be set on the Seder table. That's what the Rebbe emphasized. But you know, sometimes you have children, you have grandchildren. We can't always do that. For safety, you could place only some of the candles on the table. At least during Kiddush, we should be able to look at the candles while saying the brocha. When we say the brocha, boire pri hagofen, we should look at the wine in our cups. This year, the first Seder night is Mitzoe Shabbos. We're going to have start boire pri hagofen. We're going to say brocha, which is called Kiddush. Then we will have boire me oire ho'esh, because it's Mitzoe Shabbos, which means we look at the candles. We don't do anything. We just stare at the candles and we make the brocha boire moire ho'esh. And then we're going to have the Havdalah, which is incorporated together with Kiddush, a special Havdalah blessing. And after that, the men will say Shechayonu. Make sure the men have to lean while they drink the cups. All the 4 cups have to be done leaning, called in Hebrew Hesebo. We are like kings. After the Rebbe would set up his Cairo, the Rebbe would have a tray, a silver tray, under his matzahs. By us, we are not so careful to have a silver tray, but we do put a plate underneath the 3 matzahs. We put a plate, and between each matzah, there should be a napkin, a salviette, something to make a gap between the 3 matzahs. After that would be set with the beitzo, with the moreh, the whole, all the minim. The Rebbe would read through Siman Seder Shel Pesach, Kaddish, Urchatz, Karpas, Yachatz, the whole, what it says in the Haggadah, he would read that through. After Kiddush, we wash out, we should try to have red wine, because it's like blood. If you can't, you could mix it with white wine. Urchatz, we wash our hands without saying a brocha. Remember, we just said that the Rebbe would say everything. In order not to make a hefsek, any gaps between the urchatz and the actual, so the Rebbe would read the customs of urchatz and karpas at the same time, and then he wouldn't have to verbalize right after urchatz, he would go to karpas. We dip the karpas into salt water 3 times, and then we cite the broche, boirei pri ho'adoma. While reciting the broche pri ho'adoma for karpas, we have in mind also the moroir, and chazeres is included in this brocho boirei pri ho'adoma. We dafke eat a small amount. We should not have to make an after broche, as we just said, that this brocho includes for the hadomo that we will eat later. Karpas, we don't lean. If you don't eat up the whole karpas, the rest does not go back into the Seder plates. Finish, that's off. Of course, make sure that every member of the family gets a piece of karpas to make the broche and to dip it in salt water. Yachatz. We break the middle matzah in half, and the larger portion is broken into 5 pieces. And this is being done underneath when the matzah is covered. you cover and hide the larger portion for Afikomen. Now, this is now a little bit tricky because we need the other half, the broken half, to be yoitzer later on, the mitzvah of eating matzah. The mitzvah of eating matzah has to be the shiur, the amount of a kazayis, which we reckon a 1 ounce. So make sure that it shouldn't, the piece that's left over should be a proper piece, enough to be yoitzer, the mitzvah of eating the matzah. We say the Haggadah. Means what? The children ask the Manishtano. Prior to that, we have a paragraph called Hey Lachmo Anyo. We make a declaration what the matzah is. To do that, we uncover the matzahs. The Rebbe would make a point to roll up the covers that you should be able to see all three, the bottom matzah, the middle matzah, and the top matzah. Whatever in the Haggadah it says to lift the Seder plate, we only uncover the matzah. When we say this paragraph, Hey Lachmo Anyo, declaring what the matzah is all about, we push a little bit the matzah away. And then we pour the second cup. When it says, before Mani Shtana, before the questions, remove the Seder plate, the Rebbe would only move it a little bit slightly. After the children ask the 4 questions, Hebrew, Yiddish, English, whatever they understand, pull the matzah towards you and roll back the cover. The adults also say it quietly, Manishtano, the same words as the children say, Tate, Father, I want to ask you the 4 questions. The adult also say that. We continue saying the Haggadah. Everything is very important, but make sure that the children get to hear what the Alter Rebbe calls Iker HaHaggadah, the main part which gives out the message. It's good to see it inside. Sorry. It's in Siman, Tov Ayin Gimel 473. So he starts saying 473, chapter 43. Make sure that the children understand the main parts of the Haggadah. The paragraph, Avodim Hoyinu, we were slaves. From the paragraph, in the beginning, we were serving idols until after the 10 plagues. And then we have, of course, Matzah Zu till Hallel, and the final blessings. When it comes to the paragraph, Vihi She'omdo, we cover, as we're going to take the wine, make sure you cover the matzah first, and then you pick up the wine, put down the wine, and uncover the matzah. After the dayenus, we come to a paragraph that says matzah zu, this matzah. In between, we had the 10 plagues, and the Chabad custom is to pour a little bit from the cup. Not to touch your finger into the cup and have the wine out. You just pour a little bit from your becher, from your cup. You do this 3 times. One, when you mention dom, vo'eish, v'simreis, ocean, blood, fire, smoke. Then when you say the 10 plagues, and then when you say the simonim, the signs, the tzach, hadash, bach. Obvious, after you pour the wine, you add wine to have a full cup. Then we say matzah zu, this matzah. Before that, we say about the 3 mitzvahs, Pesach, matzah, and morer. The Rebbe would look at the matzah and at the morer. When the Rebbe would say the paragraph matzah zu, the Rebbe would place his right on the matzah zu, the Rebbe would lay a hand on the matzah. For the paragraph moroir zeh, the Rebbe would place his right hand on moroir and his left on the chazeres. Then comes the brocha. For the brocha, it starts lefikoch. We lift the cup by lefikoch, but we set it down during Hallel. We lift the cup again for the final brocha of Magid, and we drink the second cup. And of course, remember, you make a brocha by the pri hagofen, and you lean when you drink the second cup. Now, we're going to wash. As we mentioned before, the Rebbe would read the instructions on the Haggadah, in the Haggadah. So the Rebbe would read all the instructions, not to have to make a hefsek, which is moitzi matzo, hoireich, the sandwich, and the morer. Now we wash like we wash for bread, and we make the brocha al netilas yadayim. When we make the brocha hamoitzi lechem min haaretz, we hold all 3, which is really now 2.5. The Rebbe would make a point to put a finger between the matzahs, making a gap between them. After the brocha hamoitzi lechem min haaretz, you left the bottom matzah go, and you make the brocha al achilas matzah, having in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of eating matzah on Pesach. Having in mind the matzah you will eat now, the matzah that you will eat for koyrek, which we call the sandwich, and for afi koima. We try not to interrupt with unnecessary speech for matzah until after koyrek. Obvious, if you have a family member, if you have a guest who needs help how to do the mitzvah, you should help him. This is not considered a gap. And even by saying sign language, if a person, it's his first Seder, don't expect him that he should know what's doing in your mind. The leader must eat 1 ounce of both the top and the middle matzah. We'll soon talk about the guests and the family, one thing at a time. We try to bite both matzahs together. We try to consume them within 4 minutes. We do not dip matzah in salt Pesach at night because we don't want to add anything to the taste of the mitzvah of matzah. Matzah must be eaten leaning heseb. Now we're going to talk about the people. The reason that the leader of the Seder has to eat a double, the top and the middle, because different opinions, not clear, which is the matzah, the top one or the middle one. But all the people who are by the table and have to eat matzah, they don't need to eat a matzah. For them, 1 ounce of matzah is fine to be yotzei the mitzvah. We already mentioned last year, very helpful to prepare bags with the shiurim, so that won't be help you to be tense during the Seder. That could be prepared before. You give them a very small piece from your matzah also, but the main piece of matzah will be already given to them in the bags. Time for morer. After matzah comes morer. This should be mixed with wine. Now, the morer will be dipped in charoises. Charoises that goes on the morer is fine. That charoises is fine if it would be mixed with wine, even though our wine has water. But we still need to have dry charoises because we're going to eat a koireich sandwich, which contains of matzah, moroir, and again, we will dip that in charoises. This charoises has to be dry because it gets close to the matzah. So we can't have that charoises mixed with wine. So what do? That means the charoises that we have is split. We still leave over dry charoises. Part of this charoises will be mixed with wine, and that would be used for dipping the moroir in charoises. Again, remember that the charoises will be divided. Charoises will be saved completely dry. That will be used later for the sandwich. But the charoises, which is used now for moroir and charoises, that charoises will be mixed with wine. Dip the lettuce and horseradish into charoises. Chabad minhag is to shake off the charoises so it shouldn't weaken the taste of mor. Koirech, the sandwich. Matzah used for koirech does not have to be a complete ounce. 3/4 of an ounce is also fine for the matzah used for the koirech. The lettuce should be dipped in dry charoises, and then the charoises is shaken off. The moroir was eaten without leaning. It's moroir. But koirech, the sandwich, should be eaten while you are leaning. Shulchan Aruch, food. We begin to eat the meal with a hard-boiled egg dipped in salt water. You could eat as much as you want, but towards the end, before the afikomen, it's a good idea to drink towards the end of the meal, because after the afikomen, we shouldn't eat or drink other than the Seder wine. At the first Seder, Tzoy Shabbos, the afikomen should be eaten before midnight, which is 1:30 a.m. Those who are able to should eat a double amount of the afikomen, because there is a dispute why we eat afikomen. Either to commemorate the Korban Pesach or to commemorate the matzah that was eaten with the Korban Pesach. If it's too hard to eat two kozesim, the Rebbe said you could make a condition that you are eating the kozayis of afikomen to fulfill the halacha according to whichever opinion is correct. Before benching, fill the cup of Eliyahu Hanavi. After benching, two people go to open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi with candles. Those at the door recite the paragraph Shvoich Kamoscho there, and those who are at the table say it with where they are. At the end of the Seder, after having said the after broche for the fourth cup of wine, we add some wine to the cup of Eliyahu Hanavi, then pour the cup back into the bottle. Before you pour it back, you add fresh additional wine from the bottle, and then you pour it back. The night of the Seder is called Night of Guarding, and only say the first paragraph for Shema at bedtime and the broche Amapil. Second night, regular Shabbos v'Yom Tov. The first day of Pesach, by Musaf, we begin to say Moirid Hatol. Make sure that you hear the announcement of the Gabbai right before you start the Amidah, when the Kaddish is finished. An announcement will be made in Shul, Moirid Hatol. By the repetition of the Amidah, Musaf, there's a special prayer, pieces that people together say with the Chazan. The second night of Pesach, we begin counting Sefiras HaOmer. Now, we mentioned before that the matzah of Hamoitzi for the mitzvah, we don't dip in salt. But what happens with the meal Yom Tov? We are extra careful to have salt with the matzah. Sometimes during the year, you are someplace and you don't have salt. Well, you put it in a piece of herring, you put it in a tuna fish, put it in on another piece of bread. That's based that you rely a heter that the baker put in salt while he was baking. So when you hold challah or bread, it already contains salt. But Pesach, it's pure matzah and water. That's the whole ingredients of matzah. So when you Yom Tov by daytime, for example, make sure that the matzah is dipped in salt, or you put salt on top of the matzah, because we have to have salt when we eat the lechem. The egg that we put on the Seder plate should be a hard-boiled egg, and you put it, that's what we saw from the Rebbe, that he put it with the shell. Charoises is made from apples, nuts, pears, and we already mentioned before about the wine. Karpas, we use a piece of raw onion. Those who can't can use a piece of cooked potato. We already mentioned that the cup should hold at least 3.5. A very tricky din is mentioned in Shulchan Aruch. What happens if a person drank a cup of wine for Kiddush and he forgot to lean? We're having a big problem. As we said before, leaning is important, very important. And to add another cup of wine, which we'll have to make another blessing, comes out it's more than 4 cups of wine. So the Shulchan Aruch says to you, before you start the Seder, make a condition that in case you will need to drink more wine, this bracha of Hagofen is included. So then you'll be able to drink another cup and lean, and you won't have to make a bracha Hagofen that's not considered you're adding a cup. So what's so tricky about this din? It seems it's easier to remember this halacha, to have in mind that the Hagofen goes for all the wine, than to remember doing the Heseba. A very interesting thing mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch. Again, that a person should have in mind before he starts the Seder drinking the wine, that in case he'll have to need to drink more wine, the Hagofen includes that wine also. The Rebbeim would always use a becher without a stem, a becher that you could put in directly on your hand. Make sure that the cup is not chipped. It's a good, proper cup. The Rebbe himself would pour the wine, and he would make sure till the top, even a little bit should overflow. You take the cup in your right hand, give it to the left hand, you hold your hand underneath, like from the top, you lower it into the bottom in your hand, the fingers are up. Ladies also have to drink the 4 cups, but our custom is that the ladies do not lean. Afikoimen would be put between the pillows. The idea is it should be away out of sight. It's emphasized that our custom is that the children do not steal the afikomen. You could give them presents for their good behavior, but stealing the afikomen is against our minhag. God forbid, if a person doesn't have a father, he still says the same expression, Father, I'll ask you 4 questions. You will see before it says you should pour the wine when we talk about the plagues, Kabbalistic reasons. Usually, the Alter Rebbe doesn't give us Kabbalah reasons in the Siddur. Only 2-3 places. Like every Shabbos, before Baruch She'omar, you have a chapter of Tilim where it says these few lines. You should think about the Yud of Hashem's name, these few lines about, hey, so our Rebbe says these things that the Alter Rebbe did put in from the Kabbalah means even if you're not a Kabbalist, even if you don't study the Kabbalah, we should all have in mind. Same thing, those few Kabbalistic intentions that it says before pouring the wine, it does apply to everyone. At least you should read that through. That wine that is left in the cups after pouring is called the secret of wine that makes you happy. Usually, Yom Tov, when we saw the Rebbe eating, he only used one hand. At eating the matzah, so he made a point of holding it in both hands, and that's how he ate the matzah. Lechem Mishnah, Shabbos and Yom Tov, we do. We have 2.5 matzahs, so that's called Lechem Mishnah, double portion. The guest, your family, don't need Lechem Mishnah because they fulfill the obligation to eat Lechem Mishnah, whoever leads the Seder. But they make themselves the Brocha HaMoitzi Lechem Min Ha'oretz and the Brocha Moitzi Matzah. At the time when the guest, when your family makes the broches, they also hold the matzah with both hands. The brocha al achilas moroir, men, women, everybody does that, and each one makes the brocha al achilas moroir on their own. The moroir should be in your right hand when you make the brocha al achilas moroir. Of course, if the moroir that you have on your Seder plate is not enough for family members, not enough for guests, you take moroir that you have on the table or in the kitchen, make sure that everybody gets the enough amount of moror. Moror has to be eaten. If you just swallow the moror, you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah. You should chew the moror, that your mouth should feel that you're eating moror. The moror, which you're going to use, some moror called grain, and some is going to be romaine lettuce. Make sure that it's completely dry, because the moror, the lettuce will touch the matzah. If it's wet, we already mentioned that we are very, very extra careful not to have gebroks, means that the matzah should not come in contact with wet water. So make sure that the lettuce is completely dry. We try to eat up the matzah already mentioned about the koirach, the moror, within 4 minutes, but if you can't, at least within 7 minutes. The meal, we don't lean, we just eat regular. The Rebbe would add salt. We mentioned before that we start the meal by eating the egg and we dip it into salt water. So in addition to the bowl of salt water they would bring to the Rebbe would add a little bit salt into the water, into the salt water, would dip the egg 3 times. The halacha is that if you eat fish by a meal and then you eat meat, we wash our hands a little bit. Mayim achronim, before we bench, we wash our hands a little bit. Pesach, we do something different. Usually after washing our hands, we take our wet hand and we go over our lips, make sure there's no food left. Pesach, we don't do that. In case a little bit of crumb of matzah is there, so we stay away anything connection to gebroks. So Pesach, we don't put our fingers on our lips, except Achron Shel Pesach. Achron Shel Pesach, we have a hidur, we go out our way to specially make gebroks. But like this, the entire Pesach, what's called mayim emtsoim, middle water between fish and meat, mayim achronim, that we use before benching, we dafke don't touch our lips. You are allowed to have a drink of wine during the meal by the Seder, no problem. It's nice that the guest, your family, get a little piece of your afikoimen. Afikoimen, you have to eat while you're leaning. Previous Rebbe said that his father, the Rebbe Rashab, told him that the night of the Seder is a special omenas gula for ruchnias, spiritual levels. And he said, when you open the door, make sure that you're asking for ruchnias. That means in mind, not verbalizing, but in your mind asking for ruchnias. At a time when you say Hallel by the Seder, you don't have to hold the cup. Cup could be on the table. Every day we say 6 remembrance. The first one is you should remember the day of Mitzrayim all your life. What is the Seder different than every day? Because by the Seder, we're not talking something that happened. At the Seder, we are celebrating that we're going out from Mitzrayim now. Now is the going out from Mitzrayim. Matzah has 2 names. One is called matzah, the food of faith. One is called matzah, the food of cure, refuah. Because matzah contains both things. It strengthens our emunah in Hashem. And matzah also brings us a refuah, a cure. The Alter Rebbe had a chosid by the name Rabbi Abraham Doctor. He would send him what's left over from his kaire, from his plate, and the doctor would make actual, from these ingredients, make medicines and give this to people. Good? No? Now Rabbi Friedman would say that whoever wants to has any questions should please present it now. You heard me?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Boris, you have a question?
Oh, yes, I do. I have several questions. First of all, Rabbi Chaikin, when the search of Chometz should be done? On Thursday night?
When what?
Search of Chometz.
Yeah. Search of Chometz Thursday night after 8:12 p.m.
And the burning in the morning
should be Friday.
Uh-huh.
But we annul the Chometz twice. Once after searching the Chometz, and once after burning the Chometz.
Yeah.
This year will be different.
Uh-huh.
Burn the Chometz, but annulling the Chometz will be Shabbos morning, because you're still Shabbos going to eat Chometz. Friday night, eat Chometz. So the annulling the Chometz will be Shabbos. Mm-hmm. Now, usually, after burning the Chometz, we say a special prayer called Yehi Ratzain. This we do on Friday. Friday, after burning the Chometz, we say the special prayer Yehi Ratzain.
I see, okay. Rabbi Chaikin, and also the boiled eggs should be in shell for both Seder's first night and second night? Yes. Okay, and the minimum volume of the becher should be 3.5 ounces, right?
The minimum of what?
Volume of the becher should be...
A becher, yeah. 3.5. 3.5.
3.5, I see. Okay. And the Chometz could be sold before, right? Like last week, right? For example, week of 21st, right? Sometime.
I mean, to sign up for selling the Chometz, yeah, right. You do it from tomorrow on.
I see, okay.
It's better to do it, not to wait till the last minute.
Sure, yes, I understand. Okay. So far, I think okay, I think I'm good.
If you still have questions, no, Rabbi Friedman will give you 2 places to ask your questions.
Uh-huh.
If you still have questions.
Yeah.
it's a general question, you can send to Rabbi Shmuley at chabadofcleveland.com. And if it's a personal, private question, you can send it to Rav at chabadofcleveland.com, RAV at chabadofcleveland.com.
Okay, I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.